You ever wonder what happens when you blend New Jersey grit with a sharp eye on the AdTech horizon? Well, you're about to find out. Today on the AdTech show, we've got Ken Harlan, the man who's been in the mobile game since ringtones were the pinnacle of cool, and who's kept pace as the industry evolved from those humble tones to the world of connected TVs and beyond. Ken's got stories, insights, and maybe even a secret or two about keeping a team motivated without relying on the usual perks.
Deserve to win when it matters most. Facing multi-billion-dollar bet the company litigation? No problem. That's why we're here. Troutman Amin, LLP is a true legal powerhouse.
Welcome to the DOOH show, where we serve up AdTech insights like a double espresso shot of espresso with a twist of irreverence. Today we're chatting with Ken Harlan, the mad science behind MobileFuse. We'll be diving into everything from cookie apocalypse survival tips to the wild future of out-of-home ads. Grab your favorite drink. I'm partial to a strong whiskey neat for these conversations, and get ready for a conversation that's more refreshing than your morning cold brew. So Ken, how are you feeling today? Let's skip the press release and dive into the real deal. You've been in AdTech for longer than some of these startups have been alive. How do you keep things fresh?
It's, I'll tell you, well, first of all, thanks for having me on. I really appreciate it. And thanks for also pointing out my age and tenure in this space, which does make me feel quite old.
We talked before the show. We're the same age. So.
Yeah. Exactly.
I've been doing this 30 years also. So.
That's great. So, it's always seeing an opportunity, being able to, build on what solutions we have, how to make it better, how to prove a strong return on investment, whether it's from the marketer side, for the publisher side, and just seeing that opportunity. And I think it's just, I've been very fortunate, starting in mobile 15 years ago, it was 0.5% of the internet was on mobile devices, right? And 15 years later, look where we are, and we're just scratching the surface when it comes to things like machine learning and CTV and other avenues. So, yeah.
When ringtones were the height of AdTech, did you see this happening?
So ringtones, yeah, wow. So ringtones, that's where actually I first saw mobile traffic starting to actually get on the radars when I was a founder and shareholder of ToneFuse, it was called. Hence the name MobileFuse, right?
Right.
We kind of spun it out of ToneFuse, and we started seeing, that people were starting to get on the internet, and that's when quickly, there was an iPhone 1, there was no such thing as an iPad, launched MobileFuse. What's funny, though, is 2 weeks after launching MobileFuse, AdMob was acquired for $700 million by Google. So I said, I might have gotten into this space too late. And
right.
Here I am. I'm excited as I was when I first started MobileFuse 15 years ago.
So you recently expanded into digital out-of-home. What's the wildest place someone might encounter a MobileFuse ad now? Are we talking smart fridges, or is there something even crazier?
No, I would say most of the ads. So we did expand into both digital out-of-home and connected television. And it kind of makes sense, right? What do consumers always have with them is their mobile device. But for digital out-of-home, a lot of folks think of it as, just billboards, right? And that's really far from the truth. I like to think of it as digital place-based activations. So it could be, a gymnasium, it could be in an elevator, it could be in a subway, it could be really any place that a consumer might be. They'll obviously have their phone, but there's other screens around them. It could be at a restaurant. There's so many examples, and there's great fits depending on what the brand marketer's goals are.
Since you launched in 2010, what was your biggest aha moment that made you realize you were onto something massive, besides realizing that people prefer targeted ads over another pop-up ad for local singles?
The biggest aha moment, what's really funny is it must have been the first 8 years of MobileFuse's existence was I'd go to the conferences, and every year it would say, this is the year of mobile. I think once I stopped hearing it's the year of mobile, I knew it finally arrived. And more marketers really were specifically giving budgets to mobile. They had mobile specialists at agencies that started focusing on mobile. Now mobile really is part of an omni-channel for digital investment, so it's evolved again. But I think it took a long time for marketers to move dollars from other avenues to where the eyeballs, really where the audiences were growing.
So where is the growth right now? Is it the second or first screen?
Yeah, so mobile is it's the first screen. People spend more time on their mobile device screen than any other screen. So
Right.
I was first screen. It's what's
Tired of ads that make you want to gouge your eyes out? So are we. At Origin, we've remastered TV advertising to actually capture your attention and deliver real results. Ditch the same old, and elevate your brand with dynamic, captivating ad experiences. Expect better, expect Origin.
Now that maybe the TV is the second screen, like the mobile's our primary device and the TV is our secondary device?
Without a doubt. You just there were things like when mobile first started, will consumers ever, consume video on a mobile device? Will consumers ever purchase? Will consumers ever, do research, right? Will consumers ever really truly connect with other folks on such a small screen? And the answer is right, yes, and yes. So I would absolutely say that the mobile device is the first screen. CTV, the large, really the TV in the living room or family room of a home is really the second screen. I mean, because even when you're watching TV, what do you have with you? Your mobile device, right?
So balancing data privacy, precise targeting must feel a lot like juggling flaming torches while riding a unicycle. How do you pull it off without getting burned?
Yeah, so MobileFuse, we've always taken an approach of data privacy and compliance more seriously than anyone has from the beginning. And in some ways, it's been to our detriment, right? We haven't, over the last 15 years, we haven't grown to become this multi-billion-dollar company. We haven't gone out and raised money based on, these huge growth rates. We've grown 20, 30, 40% a year every year since our existence. And so my view of when it comes to data signals, right, is first to respect the privacy of the consumer and whatever the laws are of every different state, which is already complicated. It's especially even more recently. I believe one of the best ways that marketers should, and this is something MobileFuse does very well at, is we look at contextual signals just as much. So, for example, if we know that certain consumers, because of precise targeting, spend their time on a weather app, playing a game, checking their email, doing those different things, well, it's very likely that like consumers will be on those same apps as well. Right? You also could tell when are the best times to serve ads, when are the best days to serve ads, things like that, where you can really start to understand the best moments to serve an ad are. Where I think the industry in general has kind of gotten away. They've almost had too much tunnel vision for precise targeting, for using such specific targeting that I think there's a significant population that could be potentially missed if you're trying to always do the most precise targeting, right?
So amid all the chaos, how do you keep your team motivated? Is it the allure of free snacks, epic retreats, or do you have a secret motivational sauce?
No, you know what? I wish none of the above. I mean, we do have, a company retreat every 9 months, which is completely social, is not required. Anyone can go. We usually have a very high participation rate. We are 100% work from home. We obviously pay competitively and things like that. But I really think, and if you were to look underneath the hood, the tenure that we have at MobileFuse is longer than any other company. I mean, we have folks that are here 5 years, 7 years, 10 years, even almost 15 years, as long as I've been, since I started the company. And I think one of the things that's been a real benefit for us for keeping our employees is that we never raise money, that we haven't had, I haven't had a boss. My focus has always been on our clients, on our publishers, and our technology. There isn't that hey, we need a monthly snapshot. We need to do a quarterly board report. We've never done that in the history of MobileFuse. So I think when it's, everyone works hard, just like people work hard at other companies, but everything that my team is working hard towards, it's for one of those three areas. It's, again, product, clients, or publishers.
Speaking of looking forward to something, imagine you're in 2030. What does MobileFuse look like in this utopian or perhaps dystopian ad tech future? Are we talking ads on Mars or something wilder?
I'll tell you, so we definitely have dog years in ad tech. There's no doubt about it.
Right.
Like, even though MobileFuse has been around for 15 years, I think we're, past 100 years, at least for me. So to think that far out, right? That's a long ways. But we, I think we're, as an industry and the MobileFuse, we're just starting to scratch the surface with machine learning and artificial intelligence. Where that possibly can go is really, really tremendous. You're talking from creative, being able to build creative, test creative. You're able to provide, maybe more relevant content, more relevant ads. There's so much that can be done. Look, I just read the other day that 70%. I like to look at the stock exchange or what happens in the stock market, because I feel like the ad tech market is kind of a laggard, right? So the ad tech, the finance market, you used to call your broker, then you move to buying stocks with, an E-Trade or a Scottrade. Well, with that digital advertising, it was the same thing. You used to work with your agency, you'd have an insertion order. Now you can buy it automatically. Now, I read recently that 70% of all stock trades that happen today are generated by algorithms. Today, I don't think that 70% of digital advertising is generated by algorithms and machine learning. So I think that's a big part of the future.
With the ad tech landscape changing so much, and everyone's obviously talking about cookie depreciation, web traffic nosediving. What's your take on the current state of chaos and the opportunities within this industry?
Yeah, great question. So I think there's way too much focus on cookie deprecation right now. I don't think anyone has a clue on the nosedive that you just mentioned with what's happening with web. With Google, so let's just kind of level set. Consumers today, when they're on their mobile device, they have two different types of experiences. They're either on their apps or they're on the web, right? If they're on their apps, you clearly have already downloaded an app and you go right to the app for that experience, whatever that might be. If you're on web, typically you don't have websites saved to your phone. Typically, the way consumers end up on websites is through referral traffic from Google, from Meta, from X, right? I think I'd read recently it's like 80+% of all web traffic is generated by one of those three sources. So we already know that Meta and X have reduced the number of referral links that they allow to be shown within their algorithms, but Google's the big one. And Google has a search box. I think it's actually, I have it written down here. It's called the Search Generative Experience. And I believe it's generated by their Gemini AI, they call it. And anyway.
Right, it just popped up recently, and now it dominates your search.
Exactly. And what happens is by the end of this year, apparently, all search results will have that. So what that means is most consumers are not going to go below that box and go to other websites if the answers are good enough within that search box. And why is Google doing that? Because Google wants to keep their traffic on Google, right?
Unless you pay for it.
Exactly. And there's going to be a significant demand to probably promote that search box. So the web is, I don't think cookie deprecation even really matters, to tell you the truth.
Right.
Because there isn't going to be consumers on the web in general. Sure, there'll be some folks that go to a few key publications, they have a few bookmarks. Like, I'm not saying it's going to completely disappear, but the audience is going to be a fraction of the size that it is today.
So how do you think this shift will impact the way brands and agencies approach their digital strategies?
Yeah, so I think brands have to really look at this and take it seriously, because based on, we've looked at e-marketers numbers, and brands today spend a significant amount of dollars on web, and it's here's and the reason why they spend a significant amount on web is that's where kind of programmatic was born out of. Programmatic was really born in web, if you will, and using cookies. It wasn't intended, at least at the time, for in-app. So brands and agencies have to really reassess how they allocate their ad budgets to where their audience is today and where it's going. And that's, obviously CTV is definitely one that should get a lot of traction, and in-app is another one. And in-app is also really interesting in that in-app is obviously continuing to grow, but there's been a big shift on the in-app side as well. For years, the reason why brands and agencies didn't buy in-app is because the CPMs were too expensive, because apps were advertising inside of other apps, right? And it's obviously a huge business. AppLovin's a public company. That's exactly what they do. They're a huge company. Their results are, anyone could see them. But what's happening now is the apps are starting to realize, let's not show every ad to send our traffic, our audiences, to other apps. Let's do that at every 3 apps, or let's do that maybe for the first 2 or 3 ads that we show, and then mix in brand ads, or vice versa. So they want to keep their audiences instead of having their audiences leave and go to other apps. But we're seeing there's a significant amount of supply that is now available to brands and agencies that was not available. So there is a solution for what's happening with the nosedive in web.
Yeah, that's going to be my next question. I was like, let's look to the future. When it does take a nosedive, that's the word I had, actually. Mm-hmm. What is the next frontier for capturing audience attention then?
Yeah, I think you have to look at the types of screens that you're on, right? So you have to look at, where are my dollars being spent now versus...
Right, but do we want every screen to be an ad? Every surface to have an ad?
Not necessarily. I mean, it's... I think where we're at now is kind of like where we were when digital first started. If you remember, back then, it was the dollars were coming. There wasn't a digital bucket, right? Right. 20 years ago, it came from newspaper or print and other areas, right? And so eventually, it started moving over more and more to digital. Now digital is huge, so a lot of folks don't have the appreciation of how that kind of shifted. I don't think we need to do that now. I think what marketers really need to focus on is, okay, what is my total ad budget, and whatever their ROI, whatever their KPIs are, where is my audience? They what CTV apps are they on? What mobile apps are they on? Where are they spending time? You asked about digital out of home. Where's my consumer spending time outside of the home? Right, and where there might be a good way to connect with consumers. Obviously, their audio is another growing area. But there's a lot of different ways, and I think that the first thing that marketers really, really have to do, and I don't think they've done this in a long time, is actually look at the profile of the consumer they're trying to target and just understand where they're spending their time. And then
talk a little bit about the alt IDs. Then those are being hailed as the next big thing, but is this actually a knight in shining armor, or is it a Trojan horse?
It's a mixture of both. Alternative IDs are better than cookies, right? Cookies follow you all around the internet, if you will, where alternative IDs are really about trying to understand that consumer more, whether it's using retail media's first-party data or other first-party data to understand the type of shopper this person is. Not that they just looked at a pair of shoes and now those pair of shoes is following me all over the internet. So it is right. Better. It's better. However, the risk is, what can the scale level get to, right? And to me, it doesn't matter. So today, what we see at MobileFuse, it's not 50% of all traffic. But it's growing. It's significantly growing. But you don't need 100% of the traffic to have authenticated IDs. But what's great about authenticated IDs is it goes back to what I was saying before. If I know that this consumer is a cereal shopper, right? They buy organic cereal, right? And there's a group that's, well, with statistics today, it's like, and you could see the type of apps that those consumers are going to. Well, it's a very good chance that the rest of the users and the audience on those same apps are obviously could potentially be the right kinds of consumers. I actually think I think there's a big problem that marketers miss today is when you do such precise level targeting, I think you're missing out on a huge audience. I'll give you an example. If you today are trying to target consumers using Safari for web, OS consumers, so Apple devices, and you're trying to do precise targeting, it's very likely that your scale is not big at all. And if it is big, you should know that it's most likely fraud. So that because cookies don't even exist, third-party cookies don't exist on Safari. So
Right.
so my point is even today, if you are trying to do precise targeting, more than 50% of consumers have used an iOS and Apple device, and I would think that marketers want to obviously target people that also have Apple devices. I'm an Apple user. So
Right.
so I think that there's good to it, but I think it's to a certain extent. I think you have to look at what's the good and how can I turn the good from that precise targeting into scale and think about profiling consumers. It kind of goes back. It kind of goes back like 10 years ago or 12 years ago. So what old is new again?
Right.
I really believe that is one of the best possible approaches. And then obviously just serving the ads when you think it's appropriate time, right? Like, is it better to serve the ads in the evening, in the morning, during the day, on the weekends, weekday, days of the week? Like there's things like that you can certainly do, right? You could also change your messaging for regions of the country, right? So, there's things like that you could also put on top for more of like a moments type of targeting, which we do at MobileFuse. So that's where I really believe that, we almost as an industry, and I advocate for all agencies that represent brands, take a more simplistic approach. That simple will generate a much better ROI in the future.
All right, let's take a little break from tech talk. If you could wake up tomorrow with any superpower, what would it be? Would you be the hero we need or the villain we deserve?
Well, personally, there's, with what's going on in other parts of the world, it's, if I could generate peace and harmony, that
Right.
would be my superpower. And I think it's like, I'll just give you an example. I'm going to be visiting Rwanda this summer, family vacation. I totally forgot, and I feel awful that there was a genocide there with over 1 million people. Like and that didn't happen that long ago. This is only 1994. I'm embarrassed to say I really don't remember a ton about it. I don't remember it going on that much. So a superpower, it would be to have peace and harmony, because I believe when you have peace and harmony, that all folks, all people will prosper as a result.
So where are you from? Can you share your origin story and how it led you to the AdTech industry? We're all ears for the superhero backstory here.
So my nickname is it used to be Jersey Joe, and the reason
Right.
why it's Jersey Joe,
Which makes a lot of sense with your name being Kenneth Harlan.
yeah, exactly. It's not my middle name's Michael. So it goes back to between my wife and I, we grew up in the same town. There's 7 siblings.
In Jersey, I assume?
In Jersey, yeah.
Because that would even be stranger if it was like, Florida.
Yeah, exactly.
We don't know why they called us Jersey Joe, but, that was still my nickname.
But between the two of us, we have about 30 first cousins, so big
Right.
families. And everyone except for one is still in New Jersey. And
North or south? Real New Jersey or South New Jersey?
No, I would consider from north to central.
Yeah.
That's not south.
No Cape May in that area.
No, but it's funny where I grew up in Somerset County, New Jersey. It's a town called North Plainfield, great blue collar town. I used to, and I live in Princeton now. I used to think Princeton was South Jersey, so I've redefined. It was south
Well,
of
yeah,
me.
that was about as far south as I drive in Jersey is about Princeton.
Yeah. So anyway, the reason why I had the nickname Jersey Joe is before the internet. If anyone was going to Jersey, the recommendation was to call Jersey Joe, me, and ask for directions because the chances are I knew someone that lived off of some exit and I knew how to get there.
I just thought you take the Garden State Parkway and that takes you everywhere.
No, wish it was that simple. Nope, there's a lot of different ways to get different places. I guess you technically could take the Parkway to anywhere, but then it just take a lot longer. But so that's why my nickname was Jersey Joe. But to answer your question about my background, long story short, how I got into the business, I literally worked for a company called Net Creations, and actually I didn't even work for them. I said, could I work there for free? I wanted to be an entrepreneur. I wanted to get the work experience. And, the two founders never said a word to me, but there were some really great people there that taught me about the digital internet or digital advertising. From that experience, I started a couple websites, and then started realizing that affiliate networks started calling me to put ads on these websites, and they were basically like free stuff, coupon kind of sites. Then I decided to start an affiliate network myself because I found out that those affiliate networks were taking 50% of the margin. So I said, why can't I just go take 20% margin, give great service, started a company called Primary Ads, and literally 18 months from the day that I started it, I sold that, and that was my first way into it. But I don't think if I didn't have the chops that I learned around business development, prospecting for publishers, monetizing, web, I didn't know what a CPM was. So that's really how I got into the business. And then, started another company after that, and then sold that one 3 years later, and here I am 15 years later with MobileFuse. So I don't know if I'm getting better or worse as an entrepreneur, but I'll take it. I love MobileFuse. I love my team. Honestly, MobileFuse wouldn't be where it is today if it wasn't for the team. I have an incredible team. They work tirelessly. They are enthusiastic. And you asked earlier, about why am I so excited? It's not just because of our tech and our clients and our publishers, but the most important reason is it's because of the people that are involved.
So who's your Yoda?
Wow. Who do I talk to? Well, we mentioned it before we started. Bob Regular is a great friend of mine. Love him.
Right.
He's a very even-keeled person. He's the CEO of Infolinks, which is a great company, having a lot of success. So within the industry, Bob is definitely someone I love to bounce things off of and talk with. We're in different spaces. He's in web. I'm in app. At least that's where our core is, right? Like you mentioned earlier, being in CTV and digital out of home as well. But it's also nice because, we obviously want as much digitalizing dollars on our platforms, but in a way, it's really complementary. And so Bob's. And you know what? Bob doesn't even care. He's just a great person. And, he's someone that I fully trust and go to. And I'm glad he's a friend of mine.
What goals are you pursuing right now, both professionally and personally?
Wow. Okay. So professionally, for MobileFuse, we are in the midst, I think, of being the most important, at the core of it, in-app platform for all programmatic buyers and retail media platforms. So meaning when it comes to if you're on any DSP or if you're on using a retail media platform or you're you'd be using one of those or both, that you're utilizing MobileFuse's tech. It could be programmatically, it could be on a managed basis, it doesn't matter. But that's really my goal. And with some platforms, we are the largest. For others, we haven't even integrated. So that's my professional goal. My personal goal, I am going to imagine going to Rwanda in a few weeks. And one of the reasons that I'm going there is I'm going to be going gorilla trekking. So I'm going to be hiking in to the jungle on foot, obviously with a guide, and bringing my my kids who are young adults and my wife. And there's already been talk if we get charged by a silverback, who's going to take the bullet. And I've already volunteered, so hopefully I don't have to do that. But that's personally, I'm hoping to survive that and have a.
Who's your second in command if you don't?
Well, I'm risking it. No one officially. But I will say I have 3 wonderful executive vice presidents and their experiences with MobileFuse. We have Charlotte Jackson, who was my very first hire at MobileFuse almost 15 years ago. Danielle Keefe, who's my EVP of operations. She's with MobileFuse for more than 10 years. And Dan Barnett, he's my EVP of tech. Technically, he's with MobileFuse for 9 years, but Dan was involved with ToneFuse. He helped actually launch MobileFuse in the early days, so he's really 9 years with an asterisk. So
what's the biggest myth about in-app advertising that you want to debunk?
Yeah, so I think a lot of folks, when they think about in-app in general, think about it as games, that it's just games. But I don't know about you, but sure, I play a few games, a little bit here every day.
Is that where the most of the ads are, though, or is it not?
Well, not at all, because you obviously also use, your apps for weather, for news. News is an enormous category for us. People have their favorite app or apps for news. That's a big one. Sports, another one. Folks that are single, dating apps is another one. There's also other social apps, more niche apps. Obviously, weather is another one. So there's a lot of different categories. If you think about it, almost anybody that whatever, if they have 10 apps or 20 apps on their phone or more, it's going to be a mixture of all those things. And there's ads on all of those. What's really nice, though, about what folks don't realize or think about is one of the really nice things about not only having a large ecosystem, a large audience that's consistent and doesn't deal with the things that we talked about that's happening negatively in the web space, is the app ecosystem is really controlled by the two app stores, right? Google and Apple. And one of the benefits from an advertiser standpoint is every app has to be approved, right? They go and actually look at the ad. They look at the apps, they look at where the ads are placed. There isn't pop-ups, there isn't, any other types of ads that are, really intrusive. They're approved by the app store. The web doesn't have that, right? The web is the wild, wild west. So that, I think, is something that should be known, right? But I don't think it's thought about as a very big positive, even though it is. So there's a certain level of policing, if you will.
Interestingly enough, I show from the business of apps and Million Insights that gaming apps produced $19.3 billion in 2023, while productivity produced $8.14 billion. So this seems to think that gaming apps still have more ads in them.
Well, I don't think it's necessarily more ads, but what I think it is that goes back to, companies that apps that are advertising within other apps. So games advertising within other games, and they pay much higher CPMs. So It's not necessarily that the audience or that there's more advertisements, it's that the CPMs are just higher in some. So for example, if you're some apps, they might receive a $50 CPM for a full page ad that's for, let's say, a game for another game.
Right.
That's just
it's probably a zombie game, which it is every single time on my phone.
Could be. I don't know. Maybe you're targeted to liking zombie games. But yeah, so it's not necessarily just dollars is one metric. I think CPMs aren't the same across. depending on the market.
So how do you see MobileFuse continuing to innovate and lead the way in the ad tech space?
Yeah, so I think we have a great opportunity here with having this rich data set, right? Since in-app is our core and since consumers spend the most time there, and being able to use those data sets, right? Not only for marketers to benefit and understand and how better to reach consumers across in-app, but then, taking device graphs and going across to CTV, going across to digital out-of-home, right, where you can really use that rich data set to do better targeting, but I would say not as precise targeting, because I don't think that's what's needed. I think it's just better targeting to reach large audiences, and so I think that's really our main focus is how to help all the. I mean, we have literally 150,000 ad requests per second that goes through our pipes every single day, every single second. So if you think about that volume, so my goal as the CEO and founder of MobileFuse is really simple. It's how to best have buy side activate against that data set, against those publishers, and for them to yield, obviously, a strong return on investment.
So before we go, I'd like to ask, if you could send yourself a time-traveling text message to when you started in the ad industry, what would you tell yourself? And would you listen to yourself? And as always, remind people, you can't give stop ticks.
Yeah.
Everyone's like, buy Apple, buy Bitcoin.
No. So, as an entrepreneur, I would say one of the things I didn't have early on, but I definitely have now, is to be patient, to make sure the people you work with are great, and those things take time to make sure you find the great people. So you have to be patient for that. Also, believe in what you're doing. Make sure that it's not just for, hey, I can do this quickly and I'm going to be able to have a large transaction. Make sure what you're building is a solution that is valuable to the ecosystem. Because if you're building that, you might have to pivot, you might have to make changes along the way. And then the last thing is try not to raise money if you can avoid it. I think that's been so key for me as an entrepreneur. It's been key for my team. And when you don't raise money, that forces you to really look at your products. It forces you to make sure you have a good product fit.
And that's a wrap, folks. We've just scratched the surface of Ken Harlan's journey from the days of ringtones to leading the charge in mobile innovation. If you've been wondering how to stay relevant in an industry that's constantly evolving, Ken just handed you the blueprint. Whether it's juggling data privacy with precision or figuring out the next big thing in digital out of home, Ken's insights have been nothing short of a masterclass. But before we go, a big shout out to our sponsors. First up, Troutman Amin LLP, the legal powerhouses who aren't just about keeping you compliant, they're about winning, plain and simple. From tackling complex litigation to providing top-tier compliance advice, they're the ones you want in your corner when the stakes are high. And let's not forget Origin, the creative wizards at originmedia.tv. They're all about merging brand storytelling with data-driven marketing to give your business the rocket fuel it needs to take off. Whether it's precision marketing, stunning video production, or a complete brand overhaul, these folks have you covered. Don't just take my word for it. Go check them out. And remember, in a world full of noise, we're the megaphone. This is the DOOH show, where we don't just talk, we shake things up. Stay bold, stay curious, and always, always know more than you did yesterday.